I take what I want. You just take offense. Everything you tell me is poison. I never knew that I liked poison. My name's Harley Neville. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast.
And I'm Guy Pigden. I'm just listening to the stream to make sure that we're sounding good.
Good.
In the new studio.
Yeah, that's what Jason P. Diddy Coombs is for. He's already here on the live stream. So thank you very much to Jason. Last week's episode got more views than normal. And I have to assume that is because of the new studio. The glory of the new studio.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a few combination of a few things. Certainly the new studio factor, the new studio sheen is big. The other one is that everyone's on lockdown and they're like, oh, fuck, I suppose. What else are we going to do? I'm stuck. All the New Zealanders are on lockdown, sorry.
Yeah.
And some of the rest of the world.
To be fair, they're not the ones that were probably listening, though. We've got Jason P. Diddy Combs coming out of Savannah. We've got Tyler Adams coming out of the United States of America somewhere. Not sure exactly where. So actually, our most loyal listeners are not from New Zealand. It's that classic, isn't it, Guy? It's that classic tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
The Kiwis not supporting us, apart from, of course, our dear friend Jezza Howson, who I wanted to shout out because last week Jezza gave us a cheer on Twitch. A cheer is like a little emoticon that's worth money. It's worth like a few cents or whatever. And he gave us a cheer on Twitch and he posted a comment saying that he was watching, but of course we didn't see it for some reason. So this week, shout out to Jezza Howson, the artist.
Thanks,
who
Jezza.
created this.
Responsible for Guy as Han Solo.
Yeah.
Guy depicted as Han Solo, which is just behind us. Glorious.
I'm also using another one of his pieces of art, which is you as Han Solo, and I think it's me as a Pastafarian, and I'm using it as a coffee table in my lounge now. So shout out to Jezza Howson.
You're using it as artwork as a coffee table.
Yeah, well, I'm making it practical. Because to be fair, this artwork is made out of wood. I feel like it can handle the occasional cup of coffee spilling on it.
Yeah. Not
that I've spilled any coffee on it, but it could happen.
Well, welcome along to the show. We're still on lockdown. What are you looking at?
I was just trying to read the comments. It's extremely difficult from here. Tyler Adams says that he's in California. California.
We're on lockdown still, and I don't know if you've checked the news today. 20 new cases today.
Yeah.
22 or 24 cases yesterday.
I think it was 23 actually, right in the middle.
Whatever. And so we had a dip where it was like 10 cases, 11 cases, and now we've gone back up.
Yeah.
And we're approaching our deadline
which is tomorrow. They make the announcement.
I thought it was Tuesday.
No, Tuesday is when we would change, if we were to change, but the actual announcement is tomorrow.
Well, you can best believe we ain't changing.
Well, I think you're right. Sadly, I think you're right. I think Auckland is not going to be changing levels. And, to be frank...
We shouldn't be.
Well, we shouldn't be. But I am getting sick of this. I'm getting a little bit sick of this lockdown business. But yes, we shouldn't be changing. If the scientists say we don't need to, if the experts say we shouldn't, then I'm a firm believer that there's a lot of people in the world who are smarter than me. And there's
that belief would be
correct,
very
apt,
rooted,
in reality.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of people though that actually struggle with that concept.
Yes, they do.
That maybe there's experts who have studied for years who might actually know better than them.
Maybe there's people that have dedicated their whole lives
to learning about
whatever it is,
viruses and other sciences,
epidemiology.
Yeah.
How viruses spread. And then further experts. Yes, everyone has become an expert, unfortunately.
Facebook expert.
Everyone has become an expert, even, right-wing Richard's an expert.
Right-wing Richard.
He's an expert.
Shout out to Richard on the live stream. Right-wing Richard, he's here for the Sunday roast.
He's never short of his expertise on what we should be doing, and we have some fascinating chats about that.
It's funny though, because do you know who was really, really, really pushing for the travel bubble? Now, the travel bubble is why New Zealand has the Delta variant now, because we had a travel bubble with Australia. Mm-hmm. Australia hadn't really got it under control, but we there was various financial pressures to open up this bubble. The bubble got open, and now here we are. We've been infected with Delta. And do you know who was one of the firmest advocates of opening the bubble, and in fact opening it soon, and in fact opening it too soon, and pushing for it to happen right fucking now? National government.
You were say Richard.
Well,
Richard
no.
as well.
Well, maybe
As
Richard
part
by
and
default.
parcel with
Exactly.
his support of him.
I don't know if Richard actually votes for National. I like to think he's some sort of libertarian who doesn't vote for National. But who knows? But yes, so National was all like, when the bubble started, National was like, hey, guess what? That was us. That was us with the pressure that we were putting on the government. See what we did? We were a good opposition, and we forced the government to open this bubble early, blah, blah, blah. Look how good we did. And now they're awfully fucking mum about it, aren't they? Old National, old Judith Collins not going like, hey, the bubble was my idea. No, now she's keeping her mouth shut.
Not a peep.
Well, unfortunately, that's not true. She's not keeping her mouth shut. She's talking a whole lot of shit.
Richard vehemently says that he does not vote for National.
Yeah.
And in that statement, his Tinder will be kept alive.
Yes.
That's making that statement directly on the podcast. The Tinder, or I guess the Tinder demographic goes from a certain age to a very wide age, I feel, by making that statement. By pretending that he doesn't vote for National.
Jason P. Diddy Combs says that the that we sound good, and that is good, because that's exactly the kind of feedback we want at the beginning of the show. If there's anything wrong, please let us know.
I can see two things wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not liking this cable situation on the side here next to our laptop.
No.
That looks a bit messy for me. This is bothering me. The headphones, which I was using to
You can unplug those, actually.
Probably get rid of those.
Yeah. Problem solved.
And the third issue is to see that little thing in the corner of the screen. That's this light. I'm going to fix it right now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're just tidying up the live stream here.
Don't mind me, guys. This is not distracting.
There you go. That's actually better. So the reason why that light is slightly lower than normal is because I lowered it the other day when I didn't put it back up. It was the only thing I did not put back exactly in its place.
Did not adjust.
So everything else in this room, I had to move a bunch of things because I used this studio the other day to get some headshots done. At home headshots at the at home studio, because when we get out of this lockdown, I've got to get back on the acting wagon. And so step one, new headshots. I did those. They're looking good. Saved $400 or so by doing them in the home studio.
Yep.
And they do look good. I had to move a lot of things. I had to change the background. There was all sorts of stuff I had to do. I put it all back exactly how I found it, except for that light, which I had lowered ever so slightly. And I was like, he'll never notice.
Cost us dearly.
He'll never notice. All I've done is lower that light by about 4 inches. He'll never notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem.
Was everything put back to your liking, sir?
Yeah, except to me, the actual tripod had shifted slightly. The camera.
Yeah, I did have to move it.
Had shifted, and I was like, "This is the fucking wrong place." So I said, "Put everything back."
Yeah, no. So I did have to move. There's a little camera over here with a tripod, and I did have to move that slightly. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, he said not to move that one. He said to move everything else was okay, but don't move that one."
That's exactly. I said, whatever you do,
don't move this one.
Must
you move this one?
That.
Yeah.
And you moved it.
Well, I had to move it. You know how it is.
Disregarded my one request.
Well, art.
I've seen a trend of this before, to be honest.
Art knows
where I
no
say,
rules.
I've got one thing that I want you to do. Just one thing. Just you can do
That's
everything
not
else,
true.
Just one thing. Well, can you just do this one thing? And you're like, yeah, no worries, mate.
You cannot
Next minute,
name.
I fucking walk in.
You cannot name a single example of that.
Can you just return these videos to the video store when you're finished?
Video store? Are you talking about something from 20 years ago?
I am.
And secondly, I don't even remember ever borrowing videos from you and returning them late. DVDs, it must have been, surely.
DVDs, yeah. Yeah, it was DVDs.
That doesn't sound like me.
You borrowed the car as well.
What? Yeah.
You didn't put any petrol in it.
He's talking about stuff from 20 years ago.
Said bring up some examples. I've got them off the fucking pop them off the top of my head.
That's not really the same. But okay. And also, when are we talking about? I remember one time I borrowed your car to take a woman out on a date. Because I must have been really down on my luck to not even have a car for some reason. And I remember I tried to do a U-turn and the street wasn't wide enough. And so I did a U-turn, and then I sort of was hitting the gutter on the other side of the road. So I just needed to reverse a little. Couldn't figure out reverse in your car. There was no. It wasn't just a normal manual where you could just go into reverse. So I had to call him. I had to call him up and be like, "Hey guy, I'm with this girl, and I look like a fucking idiot." And I'm halfway through a U-turn with my ass of the car.
A dipshit who doesn't know how to drive.
The ass of the car is poking out into the road and affecting traffic, obstructing traffic. How do I reverse this?
Yeah, I don't know if it was that time, but that's because the reverse was next to first. You just go further up past first. It's really strange.
Yeah,
it was a very unusual reverse.
Well, I'm glad you acknowledged that.
I will acknowledge that it was a difficult car. Richard thinks it was a European car. Could well have been. And he also says 30% of video stores' income come from late fees. I would say for my video store, it'd be more like the one 100. That I worked at, like 50% or 60%.
Yeah.
Man, I had some. One of the worst parts was haggling with fee, like so it's over fees of what people have. So I don't want to pay. I'm trying to give you business. I'm sorry, sir. You can't get out another video till you've paid at least some of your fees. Look, sir, I'd be willing to wipe a quarter of your fees off if you'll just pay them up all now. I don't have any money to pay them now.
But I really want to watch
get a video out. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Fuck's sake, mate. Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? They were British. So they're even more angry.
Yeah.
Because as the British are far more angry about these sorts of things.
They love complaining. They're a breed of complainers. Yeah. It's a national pastime. That's why they're known as whining poms.
Yeah.
It's a national pastime.
Don't mention late fees to them.
Go to the beach and you go, this beach is too sandy.
Oh, this beach is all fucking rocks if it's in England.
Well, yeah, that too. But if they went to a good beach, this beach is too sandy. Now,
what was the most expensive fee you collected? Well, it would have been over £100, Richard, for sure. Easily over £100, and I think the videos at the time to hire were like £2.75, or maybe £3 or maybe £5 for a new release back then. But yeah, well over £100. And then there was some people that would just come in, rack up the late fees, and then they just come in and pay them, and then they just do it again and again and again. And those were the rich people of the world. Money is different to people. To me, I couldn't believe that every single time they'd repeat the same mistake, they received a punishment for it, and they would disregard that punishment and do exactly the same thing, and then just pay it like it was nothing.
Well, that's an interesting example, Guy, of a flaw in our system, which is that fees and fines are effectively they're only effective against poor people.
Yeah,
so
they're devastating to the poor.
Exactly, but rich people. So, for example, speeding tickets and parking tickets. If you are a millionaire, right, you can drive as fast as you want within reason. You can park wherever you want because you don't care if you get a ticket, because who gives a shit if it costs you $50 to go park that day? Because you don't give a shit because whatever, $50 is nothing. It just automatically gets paid by your secretary or whatever. So if it is a fee or a fine, then it's effectively only illegal for the poor.
It's true.
It's not illegal for the rich. It's the same deal.
Although in saying that, I agree with that logic, and it is true, relatively speaking, but you'd be surprised at the amount of incredibly rich people that were the ones haggling over the late fees and trying to get them all waived. Like, like on the flip side of that is the fucking penny pinching rich people who are like, fuck, I won't give you fucking 50 pence, mate. They're so, reluctant to part with cash because that is how they've amounted all their wealth. So to them, the fine is still devastating, even though it's not.
Yeah, like emotionally devastating.
Emotionally devastating.
Yeah. Well, they don't get rich by giving their money away. They don't get rich by paying their due. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Fuckers. Those rich fuckers. When I'm rich, I'm going to be just like them. Nah, it's not true. I don't think I will be. I'm already rich and I'm not like them.
Well, I think, I would say you're using the definition of rich very loosely.
See, the thing
you're
is...
richer than you were.
Well, rich is subjective.
Yes.
And so I am rich when you consider where I'm not rich from the perspective of anybody who has any money whatsoever, but I am rich from the perspective of my young self who
Yeah.
had nothing. So it's all. I'm miles ahead. I'm miles ahead of where I thought I would be or where I should be. Well, maybe not where I thought
you
I
thought
would.
you would.
I
be.
thought
Let's
I'd be
say
rich
you
and
probably
famous
thought
by
you'd be
25.
doing a lot better, actually.
Well, yeah, maybe I'd be doing
Maybe where you deserve to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a lot further than where you deserve to be. Not where you're expected
no,
you'd
not
be.
deserve. I am just a lot further than where I started. You know,
Sure.
it's a big achievement to be where I am. I'm rich in spirit, and I'm debt free, which means I'm rich financially.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. Donald Trump, I'm richer than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has debt. I don't have any debt. Donald Trump is a fucking bum. He's a hobo. This guy, he's out there with all this debt, conning all these dumb people.
If he paid all his debts.
If he paid his debts, he'd still owe money.
Yes.
You know, the guy's a bum. Here I am. I'm in the fucking black.
You're richer than Donald Trump.
I am literally, by definition, richer than Donald Trump. So think about that for a second. Last week, I mentioned on the show that we got more views last week than normal on the YouTube, and that's great. Thanks so much to everybody who watched on the YouTube channel and hit like. Make sure you hit thumbs up if you're watching now. It did give a bit of a boost to our watch time as well, so we might finally be able to monetize this channel. But one of the other reasons why we got a few more views was because I finally clipped out a highlight from the show, and that was thanks in part to Ben Fowler, 5150 listener Ben Fowler. So I'd like to shout out Ben because he messaged me, seeing how I was, and he said, nice setup regarding the studio. He's admired the studio, and he said the funniest thing ever was when Guy freaked out that you were looking at him. What do you mean? I'm looking at the person who's talking.
It's weird.
Fuck, that cracked me up, he said.
Yeah, so shout out to Ben, and we should mention that we sometimes talk about Viva La Dirt League here on the channel, and Ben has just announced that he is now gone to work for them full-time as an editor.
Yeah.
Which I think is fucking awesome. And
that happened a wee while ago.
Well, I know that he did a bunch of jobs for them before.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he was officially working in a full-time capacity with them until now. Yeah. So now he's fully on the VLDL books, which is great.
The Empire.
And, he's part of the Empire, and his work, his edits, are now being seen by I don't know what their low ones are, but probably
hundreds of thousands.
Well, 100. Let's say one of their low, watched things would be 100,000 and upwards.
Yeah.
So each edit that he does, 100,000 people get to enjoy that. And he gets to see that in real time.
Potentially even way more, because when they do a repost, because every now and then they repost some of the episodes that
they do a supercut.
A supercut as well, but also they'll repost an old episode that I'm in a couple of times, and I'll notice it, right? And and I'll check it, and it'll have literally millions of views within a couple of days type thing. And it's a repost of a video they shot before they were even really, really big like they are now. So those guys, they've really cracked it. Congratulations to those guys. I dream about them with some regularity. I dreamed about them. Normally I dream about them.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
Normally I dream about them saying,
"You're crazy.
We don't want to work with you, Harley."
I mean, that's a valid dream to have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a accurate dream to have.
It's not accurate. I haven't asked them or anything recently.
Oh, but it's accurate to play out that thing in your mind and get that result.
Yeah. So I've dreamt about them a few times where they're just
interested in working with
It's not so much that they're like, no, Harley. It's more like they're just doing their own thing and they don't care. You know, they're like, what? Who? Okay, mate. You know, and I wake up feeling depressed on those days. The other day, I had a dream which was slightly different. In the dream, they said that they were like, oh yeah, no, we're going to write a skit about you, Harley. We think this half hairy thing's really funny, and we're going to write a skit, and we're going to use your half hairy thing. It'll be funny. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm all stoked, and I was real happy with it. And then I woke up and realized it wasn't true. It was just a dream. So I was depressed again. So I was depressed that day too.
What dreams may come.
What dreams may come. I mean, I was at their 100,000 subscriber YouTube party, and I was not invited to their 1 million subscriber YouTube party, but I was at their 100,000 one.
Yeah, well,
I'm grassroots, man. I'm fucking grassroots VLDL.
That's where they as you become bigger and you get more famous. And more successful, you drop people along the way. So people that meant something to you in the beginning become a nuisance to you as you're further along. And you obviously, between 100,000 and 1 million, became a nuisance to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
But congratulations to Ben. And in fact, I'm going to just, Ben, you should message me whenever your edits go up. So I watch most of their stuff, but just so I know that it's you that's edited it, because I'd be interested to see the stuff that you're cooking up.
Now, so last week we had that highlight, which was you freaking out when I looked at you.
Yeah.
And that...
I mean, there should be 20 of those highlights, but go on.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Working on it. Working on that. And that's what I'm getting at, which is that it's very helpful when people send us through, highlight suggestions. So if there's a funny part of the show, if there's something that made you chuckle, if you tell me, what it was, and preferably give me the approximate time code, then that makes it a lot easier than me having to watch the whole thing, because I have to watch it all anyway while I'm editing, but having to watch and kind of like pick the highlights myself. I want people's feedback on what's actually funny. I've lost my objectivity, and so please send those on through. Now, Daniela on the YouTube channel also commented on that highlight. She said, "That was hilarious. I was literally telling my friend about this cute scene, and oh, how happy I was to find it posted by you instead of having to find it myself." So thank you, Daniela, for that feedback. That comment disappeared. It's almost as if she deleted it. But I got it first. I managed to copy-paste it
first. Out.
Like
you clipped the highlight.
The highlight, yeah. It turns out it's quite easy to do the highlights, because I was under the impression that the way to do it was I was going to have to take the video file, put it into Adobe Premiere, and find the time code, clip out the thing that I like, export it, upload it, all that stuff. Fortunately, Twitch has a very handy highlight tool. Now, I thought that highlight would only work on Twitch, which is not where most of our viewers are. But as it happens, they are geniuses down there at Twitch. They allow you to download it. So you can create it as a highlight and put it on your Twitch channel, and then hit download, and then upload it to your YouTube channel quickly and easily.
Twitch has got you covered.
Twitch is awesome. So, yeah, shout out to Twitch for that. Jason and Mandy on the live stream. Shout out to Jason and Mandy. They're wine drunk at the moment and listening to the show.
I have to wonder what time it is over there for them. Are they in where it's about 10:30 p.m. at night there?
I think aren't they about...
Or is it...
Aren't they 6 hours ahead of us but yesterday? So effectively they're 18 hours behind us, but 6 hours ahead of us but yesterday. So if it's 5 p.m, if it's 6 p.m. here, it must be midnight there. Guess.
That was the other time zone. So
yeah, midnight last night.
If it's the midnight or 1 a.m. time.
Yeah,
there's a good effort, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
And Tyler on the live stream says that the whole episode, the whole podcast is a highlight, but he's on it. He'll send it through suggested highlights. So that'd be great. That'd be really super helpful if there's anything that makes you chuckle.
And shout out to the other visual effect artist, Tyler, the visual effects creator.
Oh, whoops! I was getting
Tyler's vids.
Well, both of them are commenting. Tyler's vids say the whole podcast is a highlight, and Tyler Adams says he's on it.
And just for your reference, Tyler, this green screen that I've ordered could be coming into the studio Monday or Tuesday. I actually ordered 2 because I was sick of waiting for one. And then they said, we'll actually send that one to you. And I was like, no, I wanted to cancel that one. So I cancelled the one that was coming to me in favor of another one that I ordered because there was no delay. It was coming from a different place that's not under lockdown procedures. Then the one that was originally coming to me were like, actually, we'll get it out on Friday. And I was like, nah, tough shit.
Dicks.
I didn't say it like that but anyway, they gave me a refund, so I'm happy with that. So I've only got one green screen coming. And Giant Pumpkins New Zealand says that he loves the new studio.
Now that is Sam,
pumpkin
from the
artist,
Chris and Sam podcast,
the master pumpkin artist.
The Chris and Sam podcast. Shout out to Sam. He's a good man, young Sam. And check out the Chris and Sam podcast. He also grows giant pumpkins. That's why he's called Giant Pumpkins NZ. I bought a pumpkin yesterday, $2.50 for a whole one. Pretty economical.
Well,
it's because they are disgusting and nobody would ever eat them.
Well, I was going to say, listening to the show, Bevan made pumpkin soup for me and Tisha, my girlfriend, when we went over there, and I was very impressed by it. But the thing was it the pumpkin soup that was the highlight, or was it the homemade bread that accompanied it? You see, was my perception of the soup twisted by the tasty bread? I feel like it may have been. Maybe it was just generic, boring pumpkin soup. Or maybe Bevan is a master chef,
Well, he is a master chef, to be fair. Shout out, Bevan.
Yeah, shout out Bevan to his his delicious meals whenever we manage to eat there. It's, I recommend going to Bevan's place if you're in Auckland.
Yeah. We'll give you the address. Just slide into our DMs. We'll give you the address. No problem. I was asked recently to do an interview for Sharesies. We've spoken about Sharesies a few times.
You're a Sharesies whore.
I am a Sharesies whore.
Yeah.
There's two reasons why I'm a Sharesies whore. Now, Sharesies is a website for buying and selling stock. It's a Kiwi website for buying and selling stock. And the reason why I like it so much is A, that's where my investing journey started. And B, I know somebody who is one of the main people down there that works at Sharesies, and I had a lot of questions for her. And it was really great to be able to ask her these questions directly over quite long conversations. You know, like...
So wait, where did you speak with her?
I work with her at the film festival.
Right.
And so I also had a chance, you know, over many different times to talk and ask a lot of questions about Sharesies, you know, such as things like, well, what happens if Sharesies goes out of business? Where does that stock go? If you buy stock through Sharesies,
good question,
and then Sharesies goes out of business,
I'm sure it's in the fine print somewhere.
Where's my stock? Well, the answer is that the stock is bought under your name. So it's still your stock. It's just bought via Sharesies. Sharesies is effectively a third party. They're an intermediary between you and the stock market, and they just make it easy. So basically, it's all bought under your name, but via Sharesies.
For a fee?
For a fee. They, of course, take their fee, but you can do it yourself if you want to, but I prefer convenience. I'm a big convenience kind of guy. Sharesies. I am a Sharesies whore, but also because it's been very good to me. I've made a good amount of money on there, but also I also like it because I get referral fees. Every time somebody signs up, they get free money, and so do I. But so anyway, I got an email the other day asking if I wanted to do an interview for Sharesies.
Another
it's
interview. Your third, isn't it?
No, it's my second.
Oh, okay.
It's my second Sharesies interview. So a journalist called me up from Stuff. She's actually a stuff.co.nz journalist, and she called me up on behalf of Sharesies to interview me about how and why I invest. And it's all coming out at the end of the year, apparently, in some sort of, I don't know what it is for. But the good news is, A, I got paid for that, and B, I'll be able to use that to get more referrals. But at the end of the interview, I said to her, hey, look, you're a Stuff journalist. I have a wide variety of opinions on a wide variety of topics. So how about, just keep me in mind for anything that might come up. I'm keen. I'm around. If you've got any Stuff stories that come up, please let me know, because I'd love to be involved. You need Vox Pops, I'm your guy. You need opinions on any random subjects, I'm your guy. Just think of me. Just call me up. And she was like, yeah, well, I'll keep your number. I'll save your number. But I got the distinct impression she was not going to save my number.
No.
She didn't ask me. She wasn't like, oh, okay, really? Well, what do you do for a living? Like, outside of this investing, or anything like that. She wasn't like, what kind of topics do you have knowledge on? She was just I'll save your number.
She took that dipshit statement for what it was.
What dipshit statement?
I have a wide range of opinions on a wide range of topics.
To be fair, journalists need that. That's what they want. They want people that they can get opinions from.
They do like to have but they'd be specialists in that though.
If I was a journalist, sometimes there are plenty of times when you need an opinion on something, right? Yeah. And you're like, gosh, I wish I had somebody who I could call upon who will give something, a bite-sized opinion that I can use for this article, right? That's me. And that's why I've been in so many news stories over the years. I'm always doing this stuff because I've got a wide range of opinions on a wide variety of topics. And so that's convenient if you're a journalist, particularly because, and this is one of my tips for getting publicity, is if you want to get publicity from a journalist, the trick is to write the story for them because they're lazy. So basically you come to them with all the facts and all the story and you go, hey, so all you need to do is really compile this and put this into a story. They'll be loving that shit. If you're doing a crowdfunding campaign for your film, if you're doing anything like that, don't be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, and like, would you be interested?
Would you be interested?
You got to be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Here's all the information. All you've got to do is like put your name on it and press go. It's already written, maybe refine it a little, give it your own flavor, but this is the gist of it. Here you go. And journalists love that shit. It's fucking easy for them.
That's how you make the news. You write the news for them.
Exactly. Exactly, life hacks, people. And so, so I was just offering my services to her. I'm going to follow up with an email because I already wrote a draft. I already wrote an email to another journalist, being like, "Hey, man, so I've got opinions on this, that, the other thing," and kind of linked them to a bunch of shit and sent it to him. So I'm just going to copy paste that email, send it to this one as well.
Well, I learnt some quite disturbing news the other day.
Yeah.
Now, I am. Oh, Richard says you're really ingratiating yourself to these journalists.
I don't know if I'm ingratiating. I'm taking advantage of them. I'm abusing my power of trust, my position of power.
Well, you basically you're what's the word I'm looking for? You are allowing them to do the least amount of work possible.
That's the trick. That's how
you're
you
enabling them to do the least amount of work.
That's how you lubricate your life. Enable the people around you to do the least amount of work possible.
Yeah,
that's the trick. Enable the people around you to do the least amount of work possible, and they'll be keen to do those things with you.
I feel like you've taken the opposite stance with me, Harley.
That's not true. You say that, but that's because you repeatedly don't understand or appreciate how much I've helped you. And how much, how many times I've gone to bat. It's all that behind the scenes work, and it's like, oh, I'm a big successful filmmaker. No, it's you are a big successful filmmaker because of all the behind the scenes lubricating that I'm contributing.
Yeah. So anyway, what I learned was that my boss at the teaching job that I work at is actually leaving. So he's been around for about 2 years, and prior to that was the person that hired me, who I was only there. He was only around for about 6 months. And the whole reason that I was hired to teach was part of course, my pedigree as a great filmmaker, as Harley just mentioned. That was part of it, but the real reason was that he was desperate to find someone. And so when you're desperate to find someone, you don't maybe dot all the I's and cross all the T's in your application vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
So in I come, a little wet behind the ears and ready to do some teaching. And then he leaves. So I was there purely to solve a problem for him. The problem being, there's this new course that's taken off. I have no idea who to put in here to do that course. Oh, here's this guy. He has experience in this area. Yeah, okay, maybe his credentials are somewhat lacking, but who cares? I'm out of here anyway. So he put me into the job. And, essentially, and we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast before, but every 6 months or so, my contract has been renewed. So coming up to that 6 months, so I've always got my head on the chopping block thinking, is this it? Is this the time that they decide that they don't want to continue on with this course or not? And but fortunately, the next person that came in, so my next boss, who has been here for this period of time, happened just by total coincidence to be taught by my dad. So my dad taught him philosophy at Otago University and, inspired him and that experience really stuck with my boss. And I have to assume that part of the reason that I'm still gainfully employed is because my boss is basically a favor to my dad because my boss likes my dad. He liked, being taught by him, and now he can do the son a solid by keeping him around. And so I think that a big reason that I've been remain in the teaching space is because of who my dad was, essentially, but not who my dad was in a position of power, purely who my dad was to this other person, as in the influence that he put on that man's life journey when he was starting out. Just as you sort of remember fondly a mentor that you had, and then you hear, someone, by way of that mentor needs some help. Of course I'll help them because I remember what that mentor did for me. And so that's why I feel like I'm still around there. And now he's leaving. And he's leaving just over a month before my contract ends. And he's leaving in November, which means that I'm in a
Prime position.
a prime position for my head on the chopping block to be chopped, because
Oh, wait. I thought you were going to say that you're in a prime position to get a promotion.
no,
Because basically they need you to do his job because he's
no,
leaving and
no,
the
no,
contract's
no.
coming up at the
We're
right
talking
time.
about very varying different levels of academia here.
Yeah, so you're saying that you're going to lose.
So I'm saying that
the
because I've got
person who's
no
been
one
protecting
yeah,
you.
no one's going to bat for me anymore.
Yeah.
And I have, in this 1 month period, someone new's going to come on that doesn't know anything about me, just sees this hairy, mulleted man wandering the hallways and inspiring the youths of tomorrow in a Carpe Diem, Robin Williams style way, which maybe doesn't jive with his or her academic sensibilities. And suddenly, you know, and the big thing is, it's all going to come back under scrutiny, because before it's established, we know what this guy does, me. We know what he's doing over there. And yes, we want him to continue doing it. This new person's going to come in and go, who the fuck is this guy? Why is he doing this stuff over there? And is that really necessary for us? And so I do feel like there is a distinct danger, if my contract is not renewed prior to that my contract may not be renewed.
I reckon that you might actually be all right. And the reason why is because people like things easy and simple, particularly when they're first starting out and establishing themselves. Now, it doesn't make sense to come in and have to fill the gap that you currently fill with somebody else, or to change a bunch of shit. This person's going to come in and be like, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm going to keep things simple, for the next little while I figure my shit out, get established. Then I'll fire him if he's a bum.
Then we'll look at firing him.
Yeah.
Well, that may be the case, but I feel like where I was quite comfortably looking towards next year and going, oh, they'll definitely renew my contract for next year. The course is going well. I'm getting some good results, blah, blah, blah. Now I think, well, shit, it could all end in a few months.
Maybe I should sign up for your course.
Well,
Be a course member.
I've
been thinking of studying, but I was going to do it at Auckland Uni.
I don't think you'd get much out of my course.
Well, it's true. I mean, I've already done it. I've done a 2-year Polytech course about television production.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, the focus ring hasn't changed directions, like it's...
yeah, but computers have come a long way.
Yeah.
Computer programs have come quite a long way.
Yeah, well,
from
I know. I mean,
Apple Macs.
well, they didn't even have
the
Apple
floppy
Macs.
disks and whatever the fuck else was going on back
I
then.
literally got taught how to linear edit,
Yeah.
on tape to tape.
Tape. Yeah.
Tape to tape linear editing instead of digital. When I was at Polytech, they were like, yep, cool, this is how you cut together a news story. You press play on tape 1, you press record on tape 2, then you press stop on play.
Sometimes you muck it up, press rewind.
You press rewind, you do it again. You just try it again. Just adjust it a little and try again.
Programs have come a long way, yeah. Computers have come a little way.
Yeah, well, look, I think you're going to be all right, actually. That is interesting, though, that your family connections have kept you alive and well. Support networks.
My dad has left a lasting impression on many of his students, because if it's that's not the first person to come to me and go, "Hey, is your dad Dr. Charles Pigden?" He actually taught me at so and so year, and he really, I really enjoyed his classes. So yes, it's quite interesting to see. And also, I will just quickly throw a question. So, Jason Peter de Coombs said in the last thing that we had to watch The Chair. How have you done with that task that he said?
I did
1
not
week
watch
ago
The Chair.
on lockdown. You had absolutely nothing fucking going on.
You say that, but actually, I'm a busy man. That's the thing. You constantly underestimate the constant achieving that I am doing. I am a very busy person. I spend very, very, very little time doing nothing. It's very rare for me to be sitting there watching Netflix. Basically, I watch a little bit of Netflix at the end of the night. If I'm lucky, I'll watch something. But I'll normally only watch like one episode of something, and it's very rarely is it a film because they're too long. So normally it'll be like one episode of whatever.
The Chair.
But The Chair is a movie, isn't it?
No, it's an episodic TV series.
Oh, in that case, I can give it a hoon.
So I did watch the first episode of The Chair, and is, funnily enough, kind of about this topic about academia and the struggling English department, which is not dissimilar to my struggling digital media and design department, except the fact that, the faculty members are sort of all old, very established people that were once great, but are sort of a little bit out of touch with the youth, apart from a few people, including the new chair, who has been brought in to make some changes or make some cuts, one or the other. And so I've only watched the first episode. I enjoyed it so far. It didn't thrill me. What I thought when I watched it was, man, my dad would love this. But for me, I thought it was definitely worth continuing on, and I will. But I was not, and it was funny because I sort of live like with my foot like half in that world now as well, which makes it more, I guess, relatable. But I wasn't blown away, so I'm hoping it gets better.
They normally do. You got the big issue, right? Is you got that first episode where you got to establish everything that's going on, the world, the characters, and then second episode things start kind of making a bit more sense.
It's true.
So I mean, Game of Thrones is a great example. The first episode of Game of Thrones.
Shit.
No, I didn't think it was shit, but I was just like, oh, okay, what's all the hype about? I mean, it's pretty good, I guess. And then the second episode, I was like, I'm in fucking love. I was like,
the second season, like half of the second season is terrible because of that.
No, not for me.
It's fucking so boring.
Not for us. Not for us intellectuals.
Yeah, but that accounts for a small percentage of the population.
Yeah, well, that's true. We are unique.
But yeah, I was just like, fuck, season 2 is dragging the fuck on with all this nonsense. And I was on the verge of giving up. I watched then one more ep and I was like, okay. And then another ep and I was like, ooh. And then by the end of the season.
And then the Red Wedding.
By the end of the season. I thought that was the third season of Red Wedding.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, by the end of the second season, it was like, all right, you brought it back all together. But when you hadn't brought it together yet, it was fuck. It was terrible. Richard watched The Chair based on Jason's recommendation, and he said it was good too. So he also says they still edit on Avid, don't they? Well, they do actually, but I don't edit on Avid. But like a lot of feature films are edited on Avid, particularly. But like all the US based shows and stuff all have an Avid workflow. Avid just doesn't work very well for sort of freelancers and small teams because it's actually quite limited. Like you can do a lot less things in Avid than you can in your other editing softwares, but it's this rock solid kind of staple of the industry. And once something has a stranglehold on the industry, it's sometimes hard for people to change their ways. It's just like, what are we editing the next show on? Same thing we edited the last show on. It worked. Why are we going to change it? And that's where Avid's been within that thing. But I do think that DaVinci Resolve is the best editing software for anyone out there. I'll be doing a YouTube video about it eventually.
I watched every episode of Game of Thrones twice and read the books.
Got heaps of... you're busy. Barely have time for anything.
Not recently. This was ages ago. This is back when Game of Thrones was cool.
This is back when you weren't busy.
I was slightly less busy, yeah. Nowadays, I'm a busy freelancer.
Never have time for that.
Busy freelancer, even during lockdown. Now, the other week, I mentioned as well that I had an audition, and that guy was going to shoot it for me. And we did that. We went out the next day and we shot it in the backyard, and it turned out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. We just smashed it out, a couple of takes. We didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I think it turned out pretty good. And I sent it to my agent. Agent is happy. I even got a text from the big boss at the agency saying it was great to see and that it was cool.
Bloody good job.
Yep. And so that was good. A bit of positive reinforcement. That's what I thrive on. And so now we wait.
Well, how long?
Well, who knows? I mean, that's the problem with auditions, right? Is that no news is bad news when it comes to auditions, because basically they don't let you know when you don't have the role. So on the one hand, no news is good news because it means you haven't been rejected yet.
You might have the role.
Yeah, but after a certain amount of time,
it just means you
didn't get the role, and nobody's contacting you about it.
Yeah.
But the difference this time is that we're in lockdown. So nothing's going to be happening during lockdown anyway. So I feel like this could be a slow burn, this one. Now, another slow burn was the ad that I did in Australia, the rap commercial that I did. That took months between my first audition and finally going to Australia and finally getting the role and then going to Australia was like 3 or 4 months in between.
Did they cast in Australia?
Yeah, they tried, but I'm the best rapper in New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, you're the best schlubby white
Schlubby
dad rapper.
Yes, in New Zealand and Australia.
And I would potentially believe that.
Yeah, well, you have to believe it. The proof is in the pudding.
I would. You got to add one extra one to that.
Yeah.
That's an actor.
Well, yes, that is on the book somewhere that is accessible.
Yeah.
Well, so if people would like to see that, you can find it on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Pigville and the number 2. And what you want to be looking for, or you can probably just go to YouTube and find this. If you go Harley Neville rap ad Optus. Optus was the company that the ad was for, Optus. So Harley Neville rap ad Optus, you'll find it. It's 60 seconds long. And so they looked in New Zealand and Australia for this person. It was an Australian ad. They cast a Kiwi and made him put on an Aussie accent. That's how far ahead I am of Australian rappers, that they would prefer a Kiwi with an Aussie, putting on an Aussie accent, because there's simply no Australian rappers that can rap as good as me.
White dad.
Schlubby white dad.
Schlubby white dad.
These are specific details. But
These
yes.
do put you into a niche that you otherwise would not be in when they were looking.
Yeah. But either way, there I was. And so this one could be a slow burn as well. This one could also be a slow burn. But I'll post that ad on the Facebook page, facebook.com/GuyAndHarley. So if you go and hit like on that page, I'll post the rap ad on there very soon.
Well, that covers all my topics.
Okay. Well, I mentioned before that I got my headshots done. So now I'm in the process of choosing the best 4 headshots from 111 photos that we took. So 111 photos. I need to pick the 4 best ones and send them to my agent. So I'm in that process.
Well, how are you going to make that decision? How are you going to narrow it down?
Well, what I've done is I've narrowed it down to about 11, and then I'm just going to send them all to my agent and be like, "Yeah, you pick 4."
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like I had more than 4 on the books.
My agent,
feel it was like
Catherine Rawlings and Associates.
Yeah.
My agent, Catherine Rawlings and Associates. She only has 4 photos per actor. So, whatever.
Sometimes it's best not to see too much.
Yeah. It's true.
Get them in the room.
It's a mystery. Keep some mystery. I've also been invited to do a guest verse on a new Hamish Gavin track, a Hamish Gavin rap track.
Is that his...
I'm
not
sure
going by the homosexual anymore?
I think the homosexual was our idea. That was my name for him, and that was only as part of our rap posse, HGH, Hamish Guy Harley, HGH. So he's our old rap collaborator who has a bunch of music on Spotify. Search for Hamish Gavin. You can find him there. And you can also see our HGH rap tracks on our Pigville YouTube channel. And I was rewatching those the other day for inspiration. Pretty good. I was quite impressed, actually. I was like, man, I used to be a lot harsher on these than I needed to be, really. I think they were actually pretty good. I think they're actually pretty funny, pretty good rap, pretty cool. And so yes, he asked me, he sent me through a track called Everyone's Journey. He's written his verse, and there's a wee gap there, about a minute and a half, and asked me to write something for him. So I've been working on that a little bit lately as well, on my long list of things that keep me busy.
Yeah. Well, so presumably the song is about what you're going through in your life.
I guess so. I mean, yeah, basically everyone's journey is a little bit different, and it's kind of, that's the theme, is that everyone's journey is on their own. Everyone's on their own journey, and everyone's journey has to come to an end eventually.
That's true.
And that sort of theme, and so everyone's journey, new rap track. Hopefully, I can write something good. I was writing something this afternoon, and it sounded good in the sense that the words rhymed, but it didn't sound good in the sense that it wasn't really about anything. It was just a bunch of words in a row that rhymed. They didn't really have any real substance. So I'll need to keep on working on that.
Well, yeah. I mean, he called in the best actor, schlubby white actor that could rap to get in on the track.
Yeah.
In New Zealand and Australia.
In Australasia.
In Australasia.
Yeah.
Like I am the 99th best director in Australasia.
Yeah.
You are the best schlubby white actor who can rap.
Yeah.
In Australasia.
Well, we don't know though if they looked at rap circles, or if they only looked at acting circles when they were casting. We don't know where they looked. All we know is they settled on me.
Well, I think it would be safe to assume...
The number one rapper in New Zealand and Australia.
It would be safe to assume they didn't look because the audition process, unless they got desperate and find you, would have only gone out further past the casting agents and therefore those people on books. Although you would have to assume that there was some rappers, rapper turned actors, on those books.
Yeah. Not as good at rapping as I am, though.
Apparently not.
Yeah. I was thinking about this lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that this lockdown here, you look around, right? Everybody's going for walks. I went for a walk up Mount Eden the other week, and I walked up there and sort of, there was just a whole bunch of people around that wouldn't normally necessarily be there, spending time with their family, walking with their dog, doing exercise, just generally, enjoying their lives as far as I could see. And it occurred to me that this is what the future will be. As we become increasingly redundant as a workforce, we're going to be all these hungry, useless mouths as a workforce as time progresses, as artificial intelligence and robotics replace us. Already you go to the supermarket, you scan your own food. You don't need a human there anymore. And more jobs are going to be like that. And some people are railing against this, and they're like, whoa, unemployment and blah, blah, blah. But actually, these lockdowns are a good preview of what the future will be like when we have an automated workforce and a universal basic income. So we all get paid a certain amount every week just to live our lives, and then all we have to do, the work robots go and do all the work for us, and we just get paid, and all we have to do is visit friends, go out for drinks, go out for coffee, go to museums, play sports, raise our families, exercise, enjoy our life, living under this glorious sun that shines down upon us. So I kind of thought that this is a good example of what life will be like. It's not mass unemployment. It's a universal basic income and a robotic automated workforce. Doesn't seem so bad. The problem with now is that we're restricted. We can't go and visit our friends and those types of things. But we will be able to, once the pandemic is finished.
Well, yeah, but what about all the people that assign meaning through their jobs and enjoy their work?
Well, they're welcome to continue working. There's no reason why, if I want to go buy a coffee, right, I can go and buy it from, a hole in the wall that spits out a coffee, an amazing, great coffee, and then I can take that coffee and sit down and drink it with my friend in a cafe. Or I can wander down the road to another cafe which is run by humans, and I might prefer that. And if you're interested in filmmaking, you can make films. If you want to have a business where you
are in competition with me making films.
No, because it's you can make the films you want to make. Are they in competition? I guess it depends. That's up to the viewers, right?
Well,
that's up to the consumers.
So if they start making better movies
films
than me,
yeah. Well, look, it can't be worse than it is, though. You'll still just be an independent filmmaker. It's not the end of the world.
Well, it all depends what about if there's independent robot filmmakers?
Well, it could happen.
then you've got the top tier robots making the best films.
Yeah.
Then you've got a bunch of indie robots making all the indie films.
Then you've got the indie humans.
And then you've got the indie humans.
No, then you've got the Hollywood A-list filmmakers,
human filmmakers.
Then you've got the indie
below the indie robot filmmakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It seems like it's getting smaller for people.
Well, if you want to work though, of course you
Options are getting
can.
smaller.
And as an artist as well, like, people are always going to need stuff to consume. And so I guess the issue would be, are robotic or automated filmmakers going to put filmmakers out of a job? And I don't really I feel like that's a long way down the track, where artificial intelligence is intelligent enough to make films that appeal to real humans more than films that are made by real humans. I feel like art is not quite as easy.
Yeah, we're in our lifetime, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
But in saying that,
But if you want to go lay bricks, like if you want to be a plumber, if you want to do anything, you can still do that stuff with a universal basic income. People still have money.
The government might be like, you can't go lay bricks anymore because we've got robots to do that. And if you do that, you could injure yourself and be liable for the government, health programs. So
Maybe.
we're going to put humans are no longer allowed to lay any bricks around here. We've got robots for that.
This is the problem. We've got two alternative futures ahead of us, two paths. One's a utopian vision, one's a dystopian vision. The utopian vision is the robots do everything for us and we do whatever we want. And if you want to own a business, you can still go to work. I mean, like, it's not, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can still go to work. That's fine.
But if there's no stakes, it definitely becomes a significant problem for people that find that they assign value to that role that they do. That value is taken away because it doesn't matter whether they do it or don't. And people care less whether they do it or don't, or maybe don't care at all. And then suddenly they have no value in their life.
Could happen. I feel like it's not too big a problem though, because life is, or society is constantly evolving, constantly changing. So some jobs are going, out, some others are coming in, and so there'll always be something that people can do to add value to their lives and to the lives of people around them. And overall, if everything's paid for and they don't have to go down to McDonald's to work, then they'll be a lot happier. And so yeah, I feel like this is a little preview of the future, that the utopian version of the future. Then there's the dystopian version. The dystopian version is the millionaires or the billionaires seize control of the AI and of the automation and of the robotics associated with this workforce, and they control the workforce. And then we all become useless mouths, and that's all we are. We're just useless mouths with no value, no inherent value, because we don't contribute anything in the eyes of these billionaires who own the workforce and run the workforce. So we're just basically like, even if they're benevolent, right? They're like, oh man, I like people, and they decide to feed us. That's still kind of shit. Right, so there's two versions. Yeah, one version is the intellectual property is kind of somehow like distributed and owned by lots of different people, and we 3D print things and all of that stuff, or it's owned by this little minority, and this wee itty bitty minority controls the whole world, and they keep everything for themselves, and we are just useless. And then eventually they might even down the track be like, you know what? Earth would be so much more pleasant if we got rid of 99% of the population. So let's just let those guys starve. We can finish this in it doesn't take very long for humans to starve. We could, in a few years, we could get rid of like 99% of the population, and us 1% can, wander through a utopian paradise without them. That could happen.
Speaking of dystopian futures, did you see the new Matrix trailers come out?
I did, and I shared it on the Facebook page, facebook.com/GuyandHarley. And so I did share it there. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't like fucking awesome. I was like, pretty good. I'll be willing to go and part with my hard-earned dollars to watch this at the cinema.
This is where humanity is heading towards anyway, Daniela says.
Shout out, Daniela.
The Matrix? And Random Rick Review says, I think a robot can make a better movie than U-Bowl. For those who don't know who U-Bowl is.
U-Bowl, he's a very famous runner. He's the fastest man in the world. He did the fastest 100 meters. U-Bowl.
U-Bowl is a filmmaker, a notorious, infamous filmmaker, famous for making bad movies and also boxing some of the critics that told him his movies were shit, having legitimate boxing matches with them.
Yeah.
because he was actually a boxer. So
Yeah.
he's legitimately gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
And then who are the people that are likely to come up against? Fucking fat nerds in their basement who write shitty reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's glorious.
So he's like doubly safe from
Yeah.
when he puts the challenge out to these people. And I believe actually, I think there was some story where someone who was a legitimate boxer who put out a challenge, who reviewed his film, put out a challenge to him, and he was like, "Nah, I'm just beating up. I only beat up fat nerds.
Yeah.
I don't want to actually take on someone who's a real threat." But it's interesting because
That's fair.
U-Bowl,
If
he was famous for buying properties of games and then making terrible films of them. Like some dungeon, I can't remember them now, but it's been a while since he's popped up.
Streets of Rage, Double Dragon.
It's been a while since he's popped up with a film, or maybe he's just faded into obscurity. But
somebody
his
should
films
make
were
a Double Dragon
incredibly
film. A Streets of Rage film.
A Streets of Rage film.
Yeah.
It's been a while since there's been a Streets of Rage game.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect, right? It's time for the resurgence. People have forgotten about it, but still kind of remember it.
Well, judging by how good that Street Fighter 2 films were and the Mortal Kombat, I don't know if you saw the new Mortal Kombat.
But what about the new He-Man, right? Isn't that a good example
Allegedly.
of being able to, hopefully create a film from the olden days, and just the trick would be to stay true to the original. That's always the trick. If you capture the essence of the original, then you're safe.
Tyler's Vids says that he's friends with U-Bowl on Facebook, and he's spoken to him a few times. Well, Tyler, maybe next time you have a chat with you could ask him what film is he working on at the moment. He's been kind of quiet, or has he been making films and I've just stopped paying attention? So very interesting. We have friends in high places. U-Bowl has made some very financially successful films. And at the end of the day,
that's what it's all about.
Well, unfortunately, that is a metric that we must judge a film to be successful. If it makes money, is a good indication that it, by some measurement, is a good film. A bad measurement sometimes, but a measurement nonetheless. Now, speaking of games, actually, you mentioned Streets of Rage. I'm actually in the process of playing Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village. So there's only Resident Evil. I'm 38 years old now. Resident Evil is the only game franchise that I have finished from, so I played Resident Evil 1, and I'm playing Resident Evil 8 now. I started playing Resident Evil when I was 13 or 14, and I've now continued on and played Resident Evil up until Resident Evil 8. I used to be able to say that about Final Fantasies. I fell off with the Final Fantasies. There was other things that I used to play, all of Street Fighters, whatever. All of them are gone, but Resident Evil, I'm still playing. And Resident Evil 8 Village came out, I don't know, probably half a year ago now. Must be sometime this year. And I'd only just finished. I've been playing it with my girlfriend. We played Resident Evil 7, which was kind of a bit of a throwback, and it was a first-person perspective, so it was a little bit different, and you could do it with VR goggles and stuff, and it was pretty good, and it was kind of a return to, because essentially Resident Evil falls into two different types of Resident Evil. Scary Resident Evil and way over the fucking top, ridiculously silly action Resident Evil. And I feel like fans are very split between which Resident Evil they like better and they prefer.
Well, when you say fans, though, you mean there's real fans, and then there's these new people.
Well, a lot of them are the same people. Because I'm still buying Resident Evils. I'm still paying Resident Evil. So Resident Evil 7 was survival horror Resident Evil. Resident Evil Village is shit gets fucking crazy and you're fighting werewolves and giant fucking ogres and humanoid fishmen and, the madness really escalates Resident Evil.
That sounds like the version I would not like.
And that's the thing is, like, I would have to say that this Resident Evil, like, we were like, what the fuck is going on with these wolf-lichen people and this fucking giant, sexy giant lady who lives in a castle?
Oh, yeah.
Lady
What's her name again?
Demetricus or something?
She has been very popular online.
Yeah. You know, who's this giant woman that all these nerds are jerking off to?
You know there's a fetish for giant women, right?
Yeah, well,
I forget what it's called.
Yeah, one of the Resident Evil developers was one and
Yeah.
developed this character based off of that. But anyway, there's a guy called Heisenberg who's like a
Meth cook.
Control things with his psychokinesis, whatever the fuck it is, telepathic powers, and all of this crazy shit, right? And at first I was like, fuck this game. They fucking up Resident Evil with these ridiculous stories.
Again. Because what was
Resident Evil 5 was like that.
That was what the one that we played together.
Yeah, Resident Evil 5 and 6.
And 6. And it went from being...
Yeah, so in fact, that's where you gave up on Resident Evil 6.
Yeah, because...
We played through it with one character.
Yeah.
And I said, let's play through it with the other character because it's different. And you're like, nah.
I'm done with this. Yeah, but the thing was, it went from being survival horror, like you say, and being able to... For me, one of the appealing things about Resident Evil is the limited resources. And having to ration your resources to a certain extent. Do I use this herb now? Do I use these bullets now? Do I, all that type of thing, right? And then what happened with Resident Evil 5 and 6 is you shoot a zombie, you run into a room, you shoot a zombie, it dies, and then there's a magic power-up which pops up and fucking sits there rotating and shining until you pick it up. And it was like just a traditional video game where you shoot the baddie turns into a power-up, you pick up the power-up. It was Super Mario. Whereas what I really wanted was Resident Evil 1 and 2, and 3, where you're just like, you kill a zombie, and if you're lucky, it might have a key on it or some bullets or something like that, but it probably doesn't, and then you've got to, ration all your bits and pieces, and that was much better for me. I didn't care for this run around, action-packed power-ups business. Like Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3 are at least grounded in reality, right? Like you kill a zombie and then you have to search the zombie's body and there might be something there for you. Whereas in 5 and 6, you kill a zombie and then here's this glowing power up which you run over and it automatically goes into your pocket.
Well, Resident Evil 4 was kind of in between.
Is that Code Veronica?
No, that's a spin-off Dreamcast one, which is not technically the next Resident Evil, even though it was. It came out on Dreamcast, so it didn't exist, basically.
Yeah.
But they have subsequently re-released it. So Resident Evil 4 is with Leon when he goes out into this crazy town, and there's like a man with a chainsaw and shit. I thought that was legitimately scary and very playable. Yes, it did lean towards getting a bit carried away, but you still had to ration ammo and shit. It's 5 where it really tipped over. And then they brought it back with 7, and now with 8, they've gone, fuck, let's just go all in on the silly.
Yeah.
But actually, I'd have to say, it might be the most fun to play. It has some legitimately scary bits in it, like when you're being chased by a giant fetus.
But do you
spoiler alert,
enjoy being scared by yourself? Because for me, Resident Evil is a great game to play with you, but I don't want to play it by myself, really. Too scary.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't really like being scared. And certainly, because this is the thing, there's some silly elements in this which are certainly not scary. And then there's some scary elements in this which are like, oh, fuck, this is a bit fucked up. So it does sort of tread the line, but it's definitely, with these giant sexy ladies running around and, and her hot daughters that are in there that turn into a bunch of bees. The bees are the bees, the bees. They maybe are on the side of ridiculous, but I highly recommend it. It's a really fun game.
PlayStation 4, is it? PlayStation 4?
Yeah, PlayStation 4, but just don't expect it's not survival horror Resident Evil. It's the silly side, but they've got the gameplay right, so it's still really pretty good. The bees!
I didn't talk about them very much at the time, but my previous flat that I was living in,
well, you complained about them. I feel like you complained about them.
Off air. I only ever complained about them off air because I was worried that they'd be listening. So I no longer live with them, so I can complain freely. And so my old flat, I was there for about, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months or something like. I'm not really sure. It was a great. So my situation was I was in a shitty, depressing flat, and then I had to get out, and I moved into a much better place. And I'm glad I did. And I took the first place I looked at. I was just like, I've got to get out of this depressing flat. And I moved into a much nicer place, had my own space, but I wasn't very close at all with my flatmates. They were
scared of you.
Well, they were nice enough people, but yes, they were maybe what I would define as mega plebs. You know, they were box dwelling. You know, they cubicle working, box dwelling mega plebs. You know, who do just normal pleb people stuff. And that's fine. You can do normal pleb people stuff. That's all good. But they were just sort of so vanilla that I felt sort of sorry for them. Their lives seemed extremely boring. Like on a Friday or Saturday night, like there was never, in the entire time I lived there was nothing interesting happening. They never did anything communally. They never hung out. They never seemed to really do anything. They just basically seemed like they went to work and then they would come home from work and do whatever in their room. And I remember I asked them, I asked one of them, what are you up to? I think it was a Sunday, or no, it was a Saturday. I was like, big Saturday night plan? And she was like, nah, I've got work on Monday. And it was Saturday, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yep, no, that's fair enough." Look, I mean,
you gotta rest.
You gotta rest. But I was like, "What a life! What a life! Where your Saturday, you don't do anything because you need your Sunday to recover from doing nothing in order to go back to work again on Monday." But so yeah, I didn't really talk about them at all at the time. But I did get the impression that they were scared of me. There was 3 of them. The guy was. I liked the guy. He was cool. He was normal. There was one girl who we did chat a little bit. She was nice enough. And then there was another girl who again seemed very, very nice, but it seemed like she was extremely scared of me. And I moved into this place, and she I would be putting my clothes. I remember I was putting my clothes in the washing, and she walked into the room and saw me and went. Like she'd got a horrible fright from me.
Seen a ghost.
Just putting my washing in the machine, and I was like, okay, cool, And then this happened on several occasions where I was just in the kitchen cooking something or doing whatever, and she'd walk in and go, and I was like, okay, this does not
in my house.
This does not make me feel comfortable in my home. I don't feel comfortable because you're making me feel uncomfortable by being so fucking frightened of me all the time. And so I. There was a story, though, which was that the neighbour's cat, kept on bringing a mouse, or had brought a couple of mice on 2 occasions, had brought a mouse into the house. And then so this lady that was so scared of me was like, cool, so we're shutting all the doors now. And it was the middle of summer, and we're not letting anybody in. We're not going to leave the door open because the cat might come in and the cat might have a mouse. And I came in with all my shopping one day, and I just walked in and put all my groceries in. It was a stinking hot day, and she wasn't even using the kitchen. And then she came out of nowhere and shut the door. I was like, okay, all right, no fucking problem. I'll just sit in here sweating my fucking balls off, no problem. And then later on in the day, I was cooking something, and I was coming in and out of the house all the time anyway because my room was outside. I had a separate house, so a separate house from the main house. So I had to come and go through this main door all the time. And then later in the day, I was cleaning my dishes after having a barbecue by myself in the backyard, and I had just come in and I was just giving my stuff a wee rinse, and she came in and she shut the door again. She goes, please remember to keep the door closed. Kind of sung it to me, and I was like, so I've been stewing on it all day already because I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. Is this lady telling me that I can't use the door? I can't leave the door open on a stinking hot day because the cat might run in like a fucking Ninja Turtle with a mouse in its mouth. Maybe. And even if it did, if the cat came charging in with a mouse, I would be like, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I'll get rid of the dead mouse. But the idea that nobody in the house can leave the back door open because a cat might bring a mouse in, maybe. That's dictatorial. You don't have the authority. I pay rent here. You don't have the authority to tell me I can't use the back door, particularly given that my house is outside the back door. And so she came. So the second time she came and go, please keep the door closed. And I was like, look, and I was a little bit abrupt, and I tried to bring it back a little. I tried to bring it back a notch because I was like, whoops, I didn't mean that to be quite so abrupt. I I was like, look, I don't care about this cat thing. I mean, like, this is irrational. I will, if the cat comes running in, I'll sort it out. But the cat's not going to come running in. It's hot. And then from that day forwards, we never became close in any way, shape, or form. And she really cemented that whole being scared of me thing, I think.
When you snapped at her.
When I freaked out. No, I didn't. I was like, oh, come on, this is irrational. And I was like, look, if the cat comes in, but, you know, it was too late. I did say it was irrational. It was irrational.
Please keep the door closed.
No, I'm not keeping the door closed all fucking summer. And so, yes, I didn't talk about that at the time. I don't like to talk about current affairs on the show. I in my personal life, I like to talk about them, 6 months later or so when they're no longer relevant. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, how's your notes going?
You've got none. I did make some special cookies recently, so that was good.
Didn't offer me any.
Well, I've still got a couple. I did think of offering one to you and one to Tisha.
T-Bird will take one.
Yeah. Well, I did think about it, and I did get a little message from young Isaac, our favourite DP, saying, "Hey, I wouldn't mind one of those." I was like, "Oh, there's lots of mouths to feed, bro. Lots of mouths to feed around here. No can do." I do have an extremely limited amount, but I was thinking of giving one to Tisha because I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so, but also in isolation, MIQ isolation, I did actually manage to acquire some special brownies in my MIQ. The New Zealand Defence Force failed to stop me from getting special brownies in MIQ because where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm very willing.
Another breach of security. Well, It's interesting. You talked about the loophole of how you could go and sleep with someone in the MIQ facility.
Yes.
You exposed.
I did.
You exposed this problem with their setup.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, several days later, someone escaped from the MIQ facility and went for a fucking jaunt overnight.
One of our listeners.
And clearly, he'd been listening to the podcast.
Obviously, yeah.
So you have enabled the extension of the lockdown by telling people how to
I not only told them
circumnavigate the MIQ facility.
Not only did I tell them that, but I also suggested that if you were travelling internationally, that you should and you were a terrorist, that you just put a snotty COVID-19 hanky in your pocket, and then fly into New Zealand, keep it refrigerated for a couple of weeks, and then rub it on a bunch of doorknobs. So really, I'm responsible for this whole thing. So it was all me. Sorry. I was also on the Dr. Bad Film podcast, which I mentioned last week. Hasn't come out yet, but they've set a date. They said tomorrow or the next day.
Tomorrow or the next day to appear on a podcast about bad films, talking about our feature film, I Survived a Zombie Holocaust. Not sure what to make of that. Not sure what to make of that one.
Beef Minister. Well, you have to listen to the show. It was a good show. I think it was a good show. It seemed like a good show at the time. I'm going to share that on the Facebook page, facebook.com/GuyandHarley, but I'll also share it on our, I'll also upload it as a file itself on our actual Spotify and all those places as bonus content. Beef Minister on the live stream asks, what's the topic, boys? Well, that's a fucking great question, mate. You're the one giving us the topics. And we will go on rants about said topics when you give them to us.
All right. Well, I think that, in fact, unless you got anything else, maybe wrap it up.
Yeah, no.
I've got some teaching to do.
Yeah, no. Well, I've got some cooking to do.
I've got to keep my job.
Yeah.
I've got to keep my job for the next year, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I need to do some cooking. So, barring any listener topics, I guess we'll have to wrap it up.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. It's been another enjoyable podcast in the new studio. I have managed to only have 2 beers this time, so I'm happy with that. Still got some. So I actually got my vaccination yesterday, my first vaccination yesterday.
First one, yeah.
Yeah, I did the drive-through.
Yeah.
And it's bloody good to drive through because you don't have to get out of the car, no waiting rooms, no nothing. But it was pretty funny because, again, how you exposed the flaw in the MIQ system, I exposed the fucking flaw of the vaccinations.
Yeah.
So you essentially get into this queue and you drive around and then you pull up in front of some people and they go, have you had one? Is this your first one? Do you have any symptoms? You know, do you know anyone?
Can you just go and get your second one right now? Maybe not right now because you've just done yours.
Yeah.
But can people go in and go to this drive-through and be like, "Hey, I'm due for a vaccination.
That was a mass
Here's
vaccination
my second one."
so no, because it's probably not open anymore.
Only for first ones.
Just as in it's no longer there.
Right. Okay.
But they will be having other ones. So anyway, I drove there. They asked me all the questions. No, keep driving. Pulled up behind a car, keep driving. And then I just drove and parked. And they're like, okay, we're going to keep you here for 15 minutes. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, to see if you have any negative effects from the vaccination. And I was like, well, I didn't get a vaccination. You just told me to park here. And they're like, just give me 1 minute, please, sir. And the fucking ran off. And then someone come in and they go, we must have missed you. And I was like, I'm just the car. Like, I'm the next car in my queue that I've been directed to. So essentially what happened is I just drove right through where you get the vaccinations. And I only drove right through because I stopped. That I got no signal from the people. And I was like, okay, I guess the vaccination is at the next checkpoint.
Yeah.
But there was no next checkpoint. So essentially, I just drove right through, unvaccinated, and so then they just came over and gave me, and they go, "Oh yeah, we saw you go through," and I was like, well, "Why don't you wave to me or something?"
Yeah,
you know, like why don't you go? Excuse me, actually the vaccine. Anyway, I got my vaccination. They said don't drink any alcohol for 24 hours.
You're like 24 hours.
Well, I said no problem.
I'm drunk right now.
I said no problem, but I like to live dangerously. So I had a beer that night.
Oh.
Because
and now you're no longer immune.
But I haven't really experienced any negative, apart from a sore arm. Definitely arm is sore.
Yeah.
But apart from that.
Well, that's because you're a real man, guy, and you can handle these incredibly minor inconveniences, unlike the anti-vaxxers out there who are a bunch of sissies.
Well, that's the thing is, you can't, like when you see how easy it is and how easy they make it.
And how little effect there is on you, like harden up, you sissy, childish anti-vaxxers. Shame on your undies.
Yeah. Yeah. M7's monster-in-law says cheers, boys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers to M7's monster-in-law. And also, Richard Lambeth says that you have to wait a minimum of 6 weeks between shots. But
no, that's not true.
It's not
3
true.
weeks.
Yeah, because when I got mine, I'm pretty sure I got my second one 3 weeks later. So I was kind of lucky. What they do is they extend it depending on how much vaccination they actually have, how many vaccines they physically have. So if they have lots of vaccines, then they can get you fully vaccinated, like do one and then do another one 3 weeks later. If they don't have enough vaccines, like those bums in the UK, then they'll stretch it out for 12 weeks because they can get away with that, but during that time you're not as protected, but the stock of vaccine will last for the whole population. But
interesting.
Yeah, so they extend it based on that. And they extended it in New Zealand a little while ago from 3 weeks to 6 weeks in order to keep the stock, the right amount of stock. But now they're gung-ho. They've just announced today, actually, that they got 500,000 from Denmark and another 500,000 from somewhere else that have arrived in the country. So New Zealand is swimming in vaccines. And so if anybody out there hasn't been vaccinated yet, Richard Right-Wing Lambeth, I'm looking in your direction.
He points out that the recommended time on the New Zealand vaccination website is 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's because they extended it. They extended it for stock reasons originally. Okay. But mine was like 3 weeks.
So, I think mine was basically 4 weeks between the two originally, but I couldn't go to my first one. So yeah. That's me. I'm safe now.
So I'm a little bit. Something strange is going on here. I think that what's happening is Jason Peter D. Combs is accidentally commenting from his girlfriend's account, and probably M7 monster-in-law is Mandy. And what's happening here is he's saying we cheered to M7 Monster-in-Law, and then M7 Monster-in-Law commented, "Don't cheer that old hag. I was hoping COVID would do her in, but even the virus can't kill her." So that's either M7 Monster-in-Law is talking in the third person, or somebody's logged into the same account twice. I'm not sure.
Could be either, really. But yeah, so that's what we do here on the podcast. We expose flaws in the system to help add security. But
We're
gonna
like
be
a white collar hacker. What do we call these good hackers?
Yeah, I guess so.
What's the term? White collar hacker, white hacker, a good hacker, like a hacker who hacks companies in order to show them the weaknesses, and then but doesn't take advantage of the hacking.
Do you think
We're like that.
Do you think Anonymous, who's
Yeah.
you know, it's speculated that Anonymous allegedly does hacking for good, right?
Yes.
Do you think that they're kind of pissed off that QAnon have kind of taken that anonymous name? You know, like now if you typed it in, it wouldn't necessarily be anonymous; it would be QAnon would come up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they
should have copyrighted it.
Kind of annoyed about that. That's the problem with being a group of individuals who are not associated with each other, working under the same loose umbrella. Is you don't have that defined, that definition of
white
who you
hat
are.
hacker.
White hat. That's it. White hat. I was close. Thank you very much to Bettina Acid. And if you've got any acid, Bettina, we are keen. Or I am.
I'm not. Shit to do.
Oh, you can do shit with acid. Do all sorts of shit with acid.
Yeah, nothing constructive. Cool.
Tell Hunter S. Thompson that. tell the Hells Angels that. They've got an empire now. I went for a walk the other day with your dog, or your girlfriend's dog, and
That's really my dog now.
I walked past the Hells Angels Auckland head office. It's a high-walled fortification, barbed wire around the top, security cameras, and it's 5 minutes from here, and it's really close, and the property must be worth millions of dollars, and it's just around the corner, and they've got a big sign outside that says Hells Angels Auckland, and it looks fancy, and I was a little bit shocked to see that was just around the corner from our house here. Obviously, crime pays. If there's one thing you should take away from this, it is that crime pays, and that you should become a criminal, because the overwhelming majority of criminals in the world do not get caught. You know, like you kind of go like, oh, should I be a drug dealer? And you go, no, I shouldn't, because I'll probably spend the rest of my life in jail or get killed. But actually, that is the 1%. The 99% are the people who are enabling everybody else to get high. And everybody's getting high all the time. So therefore, being a criminal does pay, and I recommend you become one.
I mean, the moral and ethical questions would be another reason why someone would not become a drug dealer.
Morals and ethics are subjective.
Yeah.
Not objective.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Sure. But if you know that the things that you give to people
are killing them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, just stay away from like the hardcore heroin and methamphetamine and that type of thing.
Well, that's going to significantly impact your business.
Well, especially the Hells Angels. 99.9% of meth doesn't kill people, presumably.
There's a fun fact.
The
lights have gone off.
That's a sign.
They're shutting things down. Our top light is gone. That's when we know it's time to wrap things up. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you here live on the YouTube. And if you're listening to this later on your walk or run or whatever it is.
Mowing the lawns, Nick Zalati.
Shout out to you guys.
Shout out Wazza, driving to work, even though he doesn't drive to work anymore.
But yeah, and we'll see you on the next one.
We will. Facebook.com/Guy and Harley, YouTube.com/Pigville and the number 2. Also, you should please go and check out olderfilm.com. If you can go to olderfilm.com right now, www.olderfilm.com, you can watch our movie, and that would really help us. We would very much appreciate that. You can also check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pigville and the number 2. And all of that stuff is monetized. And also, wherever you're watching, please just give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a subscribe. All of that stuff makes a really big difference to us. It's nothing to you, it's a huge deal to us. So please do that. And Guy, before you press stop, give it a 5-second pregnant pause, because
5 seconds.
Last week you cut off. You were like, I was like, give it a pause, Guy, and you're like, yeah, bro, and then you cut off your last words. So thank you very much. Good night.
See you later.